Berwyn Mountain. In January 1974, the people of northern Wales saw strange lights and heard loud explosions coming from the mountains nearby. Investigators wrote it all off as a natural phenomenon, a meteorite, and even a World War II bomb which had finally exploded. For local residents, it didn't add up. Stories of military checkpoints being set up, the arrival of mysterious men in black, and the retrieval of alien bodies from the area fueled speculation about what had actually happened. Strangely, despite all the witnesses to the noise and lights, military and police search parties never reported finding any sort of site where a crash or explosion took place. The Aurora Crash. In 1897, the residents of the small Texas town of Aurora were reportedly left stunned when a UFO crashed into a windmill. The story goes that a local army officer examined the site and reported that a single person inside was not of this world. Before anyone could really examine the wreckage, the alien body was buried in an unmarked grave in the town cemetery, and the wreckage dumped down a nearby well. To this day, the wreckage supposedly rests under a slab of concrete in the old well, and the alien pilot remains buried somewhere in the town graveyard. Height 611. In the far east of Russia, the village of Dalmagorsk lays nestled in the hills. In January 1986, residents watched as a very slow-moving disc-shaped UFO flew overhead at a height of around 800 meters before crashing into a nearby hill called Height 611. The UFO apparently made no sound and caused a small fire when it crashed. When investigators arrived at the crash site, they found a small burned area with strange melted bits of metal, glass, and mesh-like objects, none of which matched any of the materials used in military weaponry or satellites. Shag Harbor. In southern Nova Scotia, Canada, lies the fishing village of Shag Harbor. Sure, it is a funny name, but in October 1967, the residents weren't laughing. You see, one night, several of the villagers watched as a UFO flew low over the harbor before crashing into the bay. Although it didn't make a sound, the object was observed floating for some time before it finally vanished beneath the waves. Police and military units scoured the area, but their searches turned up nothing, leaving everyone wondering what on earth they had just seen crash into the harbor. The Kecksburg Incident. What happened in rural Pennsylvania in December 1965? Nobody is quite sure. That said, around 40 miles outside of Pittsburgh, numerous witnesses watched as something streaked through the air and crashed into a wooded area. With phone lines jammed with callers reporting the crash, the military converged on Kecksburg and barred anyone from entering the woods. However, there are a few witnesses who said they managed to see the object before the military finally arrived. Described as a metallic, acorn-shaped craft, whatever crashed that day was definitely not the meteorite claimed by official sources. The Koyame Incident. In late August 1974, U.S. air defense radars picked up a UFO heading towards the Texas coast. Suddenly, the object slowed, turned west towards Mexico, and started to lose altitude. Strangely, the object didn't lose altitude gradually, but in steps. Then, over a remote part of northern Mexico, the object disappeared. At the same time and location of disappearance, a civilian plane was also reported missing. Search parties found the plane's wreckage and also a strange disc-like craft nearby. Reportedly, before any official investigation could begin, the Mexican military moved in and removed all traces of the incident. The Bolivian Crash. On May 6, 1978, thousands of people witnessed what was said to be a cylindrical object hurtling through the sky near the Bolivian-Argentinian border. Bolivian military and police forces reportedly found the metallic craft on a mountain where it crashed. It was intact and its contents unknown. Interestingly, days after the arrival of 2 U.S. Air Force officers, the official story seemed to change, with police and military officials reporting that nothing had been found on the mountain. Was this a case of a secret American military experiment, or one of the first actions of the mysterious Men in Black? Dundee County, Nebraska. In 1884, ranchers in Dundee County, Nebraska were rounding up their cattle when they spotted an object crashing down from the sky. The men went to investigate and were shocked by what they found. On the ground lay wreckage which was described as pieces of machinery that glowed red hot. According to the description given by the men, the metalwork seemed advanced and very light for its size. A UFO, or just a story from some cowboys with overactive imaginations? We'll never know for sure, as any wreckage supposedly vanished during a rainstorm days later. The Devil's Grave. In 1991, the small village of Engelchek in Kyrgyzstan became a bit of a UFO hotspot when 2 Russian fighters intercepted a strange craft flying through the area. The fighter pilots reported seeing a 600-meter-long object with strange markings. The UFO didn't respond to any radio communication, and when the pilots tried to fire a warning shot, their engines and controls started to fail. Radar tracked the craft, which soon crashed after. A recovery party eventually found the UFO, but any workers who got near the strange craft reportedly suffered radiation burns. To this day, no other information has been released by the Russian military. Roswell. While there have been many suspected UFO crash sites before and after, this 20th century event is probably the most famous. In the summer of 1947, newspapers reported that the Army Air Force had captured a flying saucer on a ranch north of Roswell, New Mexico. The Roswell incident was written off by the military as nothing more than a crashed research balloon. But it didn't end there. Decades later, witnesses reported that bodies were removed from the crash site and examined by military doctors. Footage related to this event has been deemed a hoax, but there are some who are adamant that authentic Roswell film exists.